Greetings from MWN.com. The topic is short-run and long-run supply curve, in the subject managerial economics. Dr. M.Wilson, formerly Vice Principal and Head of Department of Commerce, Scott Christian College, Nagercoil is delighted in presenting this session. Thank you. Please subscribe the channel MWN.com. Short-run and long-run supply curves. The nature of supply curves is mentioned below. Short-run aggregate supply curve. This curve illustrates supply in the near future or over a period in which capital is fixed. Long-run aggregate supply curve. This curve shows supply in the long term, when all inputs are variable. Short-run market supply curve. This curve is derived from the sum of individual firms' marginal cost curves. Long-run market supply curve. This curve is perfectly elastic, meaning it is a flat horizontal line. Short-run supply curve. A short-run supply curve shows the relationship between the price of a good or service and the quantity a firm is willing to produce and sell in the short term. The curve typically slopes upward. It indicates that higher prices encourage firms to produce more. Features of a short-run supply curve. 1. Fixed inputs. In the short term, at least one factor of production is fixed, such as capital or plant size. This limits a firm's ability to adjust its production capacity. 2. Profit maximizing behavior. The curve reflects a firm's profit maximizing behavior. 3. Marginal cost. In the short-run supply curve, the firm's marginal cost at all points will be above the minimum average variable cost. Marginal cost is the increase or decrease in the cost of producing one more unit or serving one more customer. It is also known as incremental cost. It's calculated when enough items have been produced to cover the fixed costs and production is at a break-even point. 4. Shutdown price. A firm will not produce if the market price is less than the shutdown price. The shutdown price is the minimum price at which a company can operate and remain in business. If the market price falls below the shutdown price, the company will incur losses on each unit of production. In this situation, the firm may decide to temporarily shut down operations in order to avoid further losses. 5. Factors that can affect the shape. The shape of the curve can vary depending on factors such as technology, input costs, and market conditions. 6. Supply curve of a perfectly competitive firm. The supply curve of a perfectly competitive firm is uniquely characterized by a horizontal line at the market price. 7. Short-run supply curve and marginal cost curve. In this context, each firm's marginal cost curve acts as its short-run supply curve, reflecting the quantity of output the firm is willing to supply at different price levels. As long as the market price is at or above the firm's average variable cost, the firm will continue to produce, even if it incurs losses. If the market price falls below the average variable cost, the firm will stop production in the short run. Thus, a perfectly competitive firm's horizontal short-run supply curve demonstrates its responsiveness to market conditions, with output levels adjusting to match the marginal cost to the market price. 8. Market price and average variable cost (AVC). When the market price equals the minimum AVC, the firm is at its break-even point for variable costs. This means that the revenue from sales is just enough to cover the variable production costs. The firm can continue producing in the short term because it covers its variable costs, although it makes no profit. It helps for the firms for partially contributes to covering its fixed costs. When the market price is above the minimum AVC, the firm is not only covering its variable costs but also contributing towards its fixed costs, leading to profitability. The firm should increase production to maximize profits, as each unit sold contributes to covering fixed costs and generating profit. The firm experiences positive cash flow by generating revenue exceeding variable costs. After covering variable costs, surplus revenue covers fixed costs and profits, enhancing the firm's financial health. The firm can reinvest profits into improving production processes, expanding operations, or developing new products. When the market price is below the minimum AVC, the firm cannot able to cover its variable costs, let alone fixed costs. Here's how this impacts the business, leading to loss. The firm reaches its shutdown point if the market price falls below the minimum AVC. This means the firm would incur greater losses by continuing production than halting operations. To minimize losses, the firm should cease production in the short term. Doing so incurs only fixed costs rather than the sum of fixed and variable costs. This chart clearly explains the movement of the short-run marginal cost curve, short-run average cost curve, and average variable cost curve. This chart clearly explains the movement of the short-run marginal cost curve, short-run average cost curve, and average variable cost curve. It also explains about average revenue and marginal revenue. Long-run supply curve. The long-run supply is the supply of goods available when all inputs are variable. The long-run supply curve is always more elastic than the short-run supply curve. The long-run average cost curve envelopes the short-run average cost curves in a U-shaped curve. The long-run supply curve is a diagram that shows the price of a product or service in an industry over time. It's a dynamic concept that shows how companies respond to changes in the market, technology, and demand and supply. The shape of the long-run supply curve can indicate the characteristics of an industry and its production capabilities. Key determinants of the long-run supply curve. 1. Technology. Technological advancements can significantly impact a firm's production capabilities. Improved technology often leads to higher productivity. It helps the firms to produce more output with the same level of inputs. 2. Input prices. The prices directly influence a firm's production costs. The input prices are related to labor, raw materials, and capital. Changes in input prices can cause shifts along the long-run supply curve. 3. Economies and diseconomies of scale. Economies of scale occur when increasing production leads to lower average costs. But the diseconomies of scale arise due to the low or non-optimum level of production. It leads to increase in cost of production. 4. Entry and exit. Firms can freely enter or exit a market, in the long run. New firms are likely to enter if profits are earned. It expands the industry's supply. But, if losses prevail, firms may exit the market. It leads to the reduction in supply. 5. Market demand. The firm's position on the long-run supply curve depends on overall demand for the product or service in the market. Higher demand often leads to increased production. Lower demand impacts in decrease of production. This chart clearly explains the movement of the long-run marginal cost curve and long-run average cost curve. It also explains about average revenue and marginal revenue. Differences between short-run and long-run supply curves. 1. Inputs. In the short run, at least one input is fixed. But in the long run, all inputs are variable. 2. Goals of firms. In the short run, a firm's main goal is to cover variable costs. But in the long run, a firm's goal is to maximize profits. 3. Market entry and exit. In the short run, the number of firms in the market is fixed. But in the long run, firms can freely enter or exit the market. 4. Shape of curve. In the short run, a firm's supply curve slopes upward. But in the long run, the market supply curve is flat and horizontal. 5. Adjustment to market conditions. In the short run, a firm's ability to adjust production levels is limited by fixed inputs. But in the long run, the market adjusts to ensure supply meets demand.